Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. My guest today is a Member of Parliament from the Batticaloa area, and he's of course Mr. Shanakiyan Rasamanickam. Very good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Faraz. Good evening to you.
Thank you very much. Why is it so difficult to work towards reconciliation? Let's work towards reconciliation. What's holding us back?
Thank you for having me on another Newsline program. It's always great to sit beside you and speak on current affairs in the country. Reconciliation, the word reconciliation means different things for different people. I think the word reconciliation means something else to the government, and the word reconciliation means a different thing to the ones who are who want to reconcile or who want to be part of this country, who want to be Sri Lankans. So it's been a challenging few years, challenging more than a decade actually, since 2009. Many presidents, I think we are having the fourth executive president in the country, many cabinets, many foreign ministers in charge of foreign affairs, many ministers in charge of justice. However, it's unfortunate that reconciliation still stands at where it was in 2009, or even still reconciliation stands at where the root causes actually started. So we are hopeful as the Tamil National Alliance. For us, we are very hopeful, and we want to reconcile. We want to live in this country as equal citizens, where Tamils also feel that they're, it's very easy. Some people you see say, forge a Sri Lankan identity, be Sri Lankan, but in places that you live in, that you need to live a life that somebody else wants you to live. That's not real reconciliation. So we are very hopeful that reconciliation will happen. In fact, I'm just coming after a meeting with His Excellency the President that included members of Parliament, Tamil members of Parliament from the North and the East, along with other officials, cabinet ministers, chaired by the President. So as we always do, we as the TNA, we go into discussions with a lot of hope, hoping that grievances would be heard and issues will be resolved. So it's, for me, of course, I'm an MP for it's my first term as an MP, but my leader, Mr. Sambandhan, has been doing this for the last 5 decades, more than 5 decades, and nothing has transpired. So however, we go for these meetings with a lot of hope. We've put forward all our requests, and they're very how would I say, they're requests that are not too hard to fulfill. So we are very hopeful that the President would take the right decision and actually work towards reconciliation, as opposed to dragging this on or wasting time. So we hope the President is sincere in his efforts to reconcile.
And that's the whole point, isn't it? You representing the people of the Northeast, you all have pretty good intentions and you're trying your best. But what's the level of commitment you're receiving from the other side, from the government? Because surely, after so long, it must be frustrating in the extreme to the people of these areas who are deprived of many things, including opportunity and a half-decent way of life.
Well, you see, issues related to economic issues, say issues relating to job opportunities or quality of life, cost of living. These are very common problems that all Sri Lankans face. But there are very unique problems that people in the North and the East face, especially there are mothers of the missing people, enforced disappeared people who are still on the streets for over 3,000, they're nearing almost 3,000 days, demanding justice. They want to know what happened to their son who was handed over to the army during the last stages of the war. So reconciliation doesn't mean that the government can give them a death certificate and say, okay, you handed over your son, we don't know what happened to your son, move on. No, that's not going to work.
But what do you want them to say? What can they say?
There have been various commissions, the Lessons Learnt and Reconciliation Commission, Parnagama Commission. Now very recent in our president's talking about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission following the South Africa model. The problem is the mothers of the missing people or the relatives of the missing people, the relatives of the enforced disappeared people, on their agenda, justice and the truth is right on top. They want to know what happened to their children. So any real
Some of those children have been taken away by the LTTE.
It doesn't matter. We are saying enforced disappeared. So if the LTTE has taken them or any other paramilitary group, as if Pulyan has taken, if Douglas Devanand has taken, it doesn't matter. The mothers are demanding for justice. There are very specific cases where the mother says, at this army point, this division took over my son and they got them on a bus. So they have very direct questions. They want to know what happened to their children. So,
and
but the governments...
Who do you think will have the answers,
well,
the real answers?
Which is precisely why we need to have investigations that we need to start. So it's been 14 years and we can't be satisfied with the investigations that have happened. I mean, the Office of Missing People were there and they on their part admitted that they have been very slow.
So ever since the...
Let me finish the entire point. So the government's point of view is, we saw Minister Ali Sabri when he was Minister in charge of Justice, went to Jaffna and said, we will issue you death certificates and we will give you a compensation of 100,000 rupees. The life of one child to the mother was 100,000 rupees and a death certificate. Whereas the mothers said, hell with your 100,000 rupees and your death certificate. If you're saying my son is dead, if you're saying my daughter is dead, how did my son die? How did my daughter die? Where is the truth? If there is evidence, you need to investigate. So, but the problem here is that even the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that we're talking about, unless there is some sort of foreign involvement, like a third party, like foreign judges or foreign overseers or some sort of foreign oversight, I don't think the victim community is going to accept it because they have lost faith. And I don't blame them. 14 years if you couldn't deliver. Again, we had President Ranil Wickremesinghe was the Prime Minister at the time. It was his cabinet. So it's not like we are giving President it's not a new person who's going to try again. So these answers I'm just giving you one example of how different the issues in the north and the east are to issues in the south. Look at land issues. We spoke about the archaeology department just a little while ago with the president. Whilst we are meeting the president and having discussions with archaeological department related issues, this morning 2 Hindu priests were arrested for entering a place of worship that Hindus have used for the last few hundred years, and they have been arrested, and they have been arrested today. The only crime they've committed is to enter the premises to follow their religious observances, and there is a court case that allows them to go there. And a few days ago, we saw Minister Sarath Weerasekara was present at that site. The minister in charge of archaeology, Vidura Vikramanayaka, leads a group of people, army mostly, and he destroys a Hindu temple shrine. And now we have a Buddhist temple built on that particular site. So how are we going to speak to convince our people that the government's genuine, these efforts are genuine when it comes to reconciliation, when these sort of things on the ground are still taking place? I hear that there's some monks have come from Thailand or Vietnam. They're going to go to Trincomalee on Sunday, and they're going to do some during 2,500 years ago or 2,000 years ago, some puja had happened, and they want to do recreate the same thing in a land where there is a dispute with the archaeology department, where the Hindus and the archaeology department are at a conflict. So they are going to go ahead with that on Sunday, whilst we are here at the Presidential Secretariat today talking about how we can reconcile. So the efforts have to be genuine for us.
Would you place the blame firmly on the Rajapaksas? Because from 2005 to 2015 we had the Rajapaksas. The war or the hostilities finished in 2009 inside their term, and then we had President Sirisena and Ranil Wickremesinghe for about 4 years thereafter. And then we had another Rajapaksa. So are we blaming the Rajapaksas?
I'm
And
blaming,
they're still in control.
I'm blaming the Senanayakas, the Bandaranayakas, the Rajapakshas, the Sirisenas, the Vikramasinghas, the whole lot. The whole lot that has governed this country for 75 years. I'm blaming everyone for where we are today. And the Rajapakshas have a larger part to play in it. But the fundamental idea of racism was there with the Senanayakas and the Bandaranayakas at the beginning. They were the root causes were created in the 50s and the 60s, and the Rajapakshas has championed racism and took it to another level of racism, and had absolutely no care for human rights or democracy, and just nepotism. And there was, we can go on about the mistakes and the atrocities of the Rajapakshas, but like you very precisely said, today majority in parliament still is with the Sri Lanka Polajana Peramuna, and that is no secret. So, but we could have, at least the people of this country would have had an opportunity to show their displeasure towards the Rajapakshas, or to show that the country has changed if the local council elections had happened. But that has also been, just indefinitely postponed. So I wouldn't just blame the Rajapakshas, but yes, the Rajapakshas should take majority of the responsibility.
So in that case, in that ambience, and in that sort of theory, is Ranil Wickremesinghe merely a proxy then, and can't act on his own?
Well,
but he can.
Well, we need to give Ranil Wickremesinghe the credit today. In fact, however long it has taken with the IMF agreement, Ranil Wickremesinghe has been able to actually complete the IMF and reach a staff level agreement, or get access to the extended fund facility. And also, you see, there in terms of a common man, you see the queues are less. People are actually okay with that, but we have to give him that credit. But at the same time, this is not a long-term solution.
Yeah, what credit can we give him towards working at reconciliation?
Well, like I said, the efforts are being put in place, but is he genuine is the question, because there is a...
How could he be genuine if he is being backed by the Rajapaksas? We were just talking about them.
Well, for us, we have to look at it from a very broader prospect. The Rajapakshas, if the Rajapakshas are fully backing him, which I think they are, which I think, because the Pohottuwa government is fully backing him, so that's a proxy of the Rajapakshas. There may not even be a discussion for reconciliation. Maybe. I mean, this is anybody's guess. But when there is a discussion, when there is an opportunity for reconciliation, we need to give it 100%. That is my position. That is my view. So if the president is genuine or not, if he is going to deliver this or not, is he going to be able to deliver or not, we still have to participate in any of the discussions, because that is what our people sent us to Parliament. That's the mandate that our people gave us. But let me finish about why I said we must give some credit to the president. Even though we give credit to the president, there are many things that the president could do differently. You see, even with the taxation, the president and the policies of the government have burdened so many individuals, whereas we have proposed so many mechanisms. I think the pay tax, the tax, withholding tax, tax on withholding tax interest income. Hold on, let me say that again. Withholding tax on interest income alone. If we change it from 5% to 10%, we get this the same equivalent of money that we get through that pay tax that were almost 11 lakhs people. 1.1 million people are paying. So if we increase our excise tax to the proper levels, we can have the state revenue can increase by so much more. So there are many things that we actually have been pointing out that can be done differently. But at the same time, we can't. There has to be some sort of constructive criticism as well, is what I feel.
Thank you, Mr. Rasamanickam. On that note, let's go for a short break in which we take a peek at tonight's headlines from the News First primetime news team. We'll see you on the other side of the break with Shanakiyan Rasamanickam.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
Sri Lanka will not support any action that hinders the unity of Asia, President stresses. Activist Piyat Nikeshala and Deputy Mayor of the Kaduvela Municipal Council Chandika Ratna granted bail. Court case filed by ship owners to limit the compensation claim for the Express Pearl disaster disregarded, Anurukumara Dissanayake alleges. International Monetary Fund staff team arrives in Sri Lanka. Sumandiran's Provincial Council's Election Amendment Bill gazetted. If not passed, old electoral system to be followed in Provincial Council elections.
Newsfirst,
Took it to
Newsline
reconcile,
with
I panicked.
Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with the Member of Parliament from the Batticaloa district, Shanakiyan Rasamanickam, and we're talking, let's work towards reconciliation. Now then, you know these talks you've had with the President today, I believe it's going to have
One more day.
One
Tomorrow.
more day. What are the nitty-gritties you're talking about?
Well, today was mostly about land issues and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the new proposed ATA and repealing the PTA, issues of the missing people, which we've already discussed, and the release of the political prisoners.
Yeah.
Land issues took most of the time because there are many issues that are in the north and the east. So, see, some of these things we feel that the President can immediately use his executive power to change these things. But when we put that forward to the President said that he needs to have a system in place and he doesn't want to take haphazard decisions. Now, this is what the President said. So, yesterday, in fact, in Parliament, I said this as well. If anybody thinks that the TNA and the Tamil people can be taken for a ride just so that they could score, just so that they could show the international community that they're trying to resolve, just so that they can show the world that they're sincere in these efforts, and lead us on for a little while, and then this is what normally happens. You know, discussions start. You know, we put our proposals, our people are hopeful, and then these go on for a little while, and then as soon as it's time for elections, all these things are forgotten. So, if anybody feels, including the President himself, that this can be done, we are very, 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 we believe that we cannot allow that to happen this time, and our people will not get fooled one more time. Because
how do you convert this thing? You get so close. You're awarded the penalty kick, and then the ball's taken off.
Well, basically, we are not the ones driving it. All we can do is we can put forward our grievances, we can provide solutions, but we are not the ones to implement them. But that's the case with most things in Sri Lanka. There are many laws that we don't implement. So this time around, we are not going to blindly wait for months and years for this to happen. If these talks don't work out, we will call the bluff straight away, and we will tell our people that we've been cheated. So if the President is sincere, we hope he is, he could deliver on some of these land issues immediately, and then we can work on a system so that this doesn't happen again. So tomorrow is an even more important discussion. It's about devolution for the entire country, how power can be devolved to develop Sri Lanka as a country, not just for the north and the east. So we are going to participate in these talks, but if the President feels that he can drag these discussions on till a president's election and then say, look, I didn't have enough time, elect me one more time and then I will deliver this, I don't think our people will approve of that. I don't think our people will be happy to do that. So because there's enough time and actual results can be produced in this short period of time.
But in these discussions, are they perfectly honest with you, with your representatives, and are they saying to you, look, you can talk about anything else, but if you're talking about lands occupied by the military, we need them, we're not going to discuss? Are they upfront and open about that?
Land, so are you talking about my constituents? Or
Yes, your constituents, any land that is being occupied now by the military, and usually I've had a defense secretary on my program who said, look, that's not negotiable. We will not give up those lands.
Well, how can someone not release your private land?
Yeah. But if they say for security reasons, we now identify that we need that land there.
So for us, there could be one or two isolated places, isolated cases, where there could be, even though I don't approve of it, it's private land is private land. That is, these sort of policies is what has brought Sri Lanka to this place. There are schools. So some of these army camps, there's one in Batiklo in Morakatan, Chennai, almost a 10-acre plot of land where the army does not even use more than 1 acre. But, the premises of the school is still under the army's occupation. There's a post office. I mean, these are very simple things. There's a post office in Batiklo where the army refuses to give 2 or 3 perches of the camp that's behind the post office, that's a state post office, to build a toilet. See, so the army cannot think that they own this country and that it's that they could do anything that they want. If there's private land, there has to be the.
Is there a mechanism for someone to be the arbiter? The army says we need this for security reasons, for the rest of the country as well, for everyone, and the other side says no, it's not. It's just you're only putting a toilet in there.
So for us, I think as an island, we need maritime security. We need to protect our coast. If there's anything that needs to be strengthened, I would say it should be a navy that should be strengthened. Since the end of the war, our numbers have increased. The military number of military personnel has increased. We are the only country where after a war where we have almost increased by 100,000. So we need to downsize our army. The army's expenditure, the defense budget is the largest budget in this country. God knows what happens to that budget. There are many camps that actually don't serve a purpose right now, and these don't cause any sort of national security threats either, as per the assessment of many experts. So I think even today we raise some of these issues, and we are hoping to discuss these issues. So our position is that that land that belongs to the people, if it could be a sports ground, it could be a school, it could be a divisional secretary's office. These need to be handed back to the people. We need to reduce our numbers in the military significantly, because
Have we
it's
discussed
burdening.
that aspect with the president?
The reduction of the military personnel, no, because that's not a matter that just concerns the North and the East. That's a matter of national interest. But releasing lands that the army is occupying, definitely there are 3,000 acres of land that belong to the people that is still declared as a high security zone, where people are denied access. There are paddy lands, there are lands where there are houses. So that is not acceptable. So I hope that the defense secretary who said that has now at least changed his position, that it is negotiable. Because otherwise there is no reconciliation. How can you reconcile if I'm taking your land and I'm not even using that land, I'm just holding on to it because I can? Would you think you would want to reconcile?
When you have a peaceful moment, have you thought to yourself, what is the rationale? Why are they doing this?
Well, it's because since the end of the war, like we discussed, there has been no real reconciliation. Mahinda Rajapaksa, as soon as he finished the war, the first thing he did was go for elections, because he knew he could ride on the victory of the war. And since then, this country has been idolizing the war victory. Back when I first came into Parliament, every speaker in Parliament will speak a few words about the war, about how Gota, he was the biggest, defense secretary, won the war, Ranavirua, all this jazz used to be the rhetoric that was there. This kind, it could be a debate about fisheries, it could be a debate about children. It would start and end with the winning the war and crushing, the Tamil Tigers, or how the president has ruled the country with iron fist, all that. Now it's Aragalaya. As soon as someone gets up, Aragalaya did that, Aragalaya did this. Now, so there is a rhetoric. So from 2009 up until 2015, it was the war mindset, that the war victory mindset was what helped people do politics. And then into after the Easter Sunday attacks, which I still feel have not, the proper investigations haven't happened, and I think that was engineered for somebody's gain. Since then again, it was national security. Jatika Araksha was the main topic. So these are the reasons. So if these holding on to these lands, this whole narrative of this we need to hold on to this land because otherwise the LTT is going to come back, the LTT is going to regroup. All these sort of rhetoric has been published, and these have been given to the masses in such a big, in a massive scale that people have voted for this. Now even there are some monks who come and say, just very recently there was some very controversial monk, I can't remember his name. He said something to the effect of some simple law. If this law is passed, Uthuranaganahireng, all the Sinhala people will have to leave overnight. It had no relevance to the north and the east at all, but just to pump people up and say, this north and east is a problem. So this entire Tamil issue has been used as a boogeyman in this country. And we just want to live in peace. We just want to be equal citizens. We just want the same amount of political power that everyone enjoys. And that's it. We're not fighting for a separate country.
Thank you very much, by the way, for all your questions. Most of these questions are reverting back to what you said about the president, that the president has achieved certain things. He's managing the sort of mismanaged parts of it. Fuel is there. Okay, it's sort of rationed, but it's there, and there are no queues, and so on. So does that mean that he's the answer?
That'll be something I could answer once the reconciliation efforts are done. With no reconciliation, there is no one. No one's the right choice.
And this president, do you think, if he resolves the reconciliation issue, at least to some extent, do you think he'll have a nice, easy ride towards re-election?
Well, if the reconciliation issue is resolved, that will resolve the economic crisis to a certain extent. Large amount of investments. We will, as a TNA, we can bring in a large sum of investments into the country. And if the economy is revived and there's a reconciliation, will bring economic recovery. And if both are resolved, whoever resolves that will have a decent chance, is what I feel.
Question from Ratmalana asking you, what about compensation for the lands being occupied by the military?
Well, it's a matter that should be decided by those people. Now, in fact, I have a land that belongs to me. I think in 2013, that land probably is worth, at that time, let's say, just rough numbers, let's say the land was worth 100,000 rupees a perch. The government offered me 1,300 rupees per perch. So, compensation, the valuations, it's the owner of the land. It could be a land that belonged to him for 500 years. Does he want to give it just so that some man's ego, so the military's ego, so the defense secretary, whoever who said this, so his ego could be satisfied? If it's a real strategic location, and those can be discussed. We're not saying places of strategic importance should be completely overlooked, but yes, if there's a case or two, we can look at them separately. But overall, a policy must be taken that people's land must be returned.
As we come to the end, Mr. Rasamanickam, let me ask you this question. Will there be reconciliation? Will the people of the former conflict areas and elsewhere in this country, will it happen, let's say, in your lifetime?
Well, I'm hopeful that it will happen, and I'm hopeful that it will happen soon, and we are working towards it. We are working towards it positively. We're not criticizing every single thing. We are constructive. We are giving constructive criticism to achieve this reconciliation, because reconciliation is, like you mentioned, it's not just for the north and the east or the people who are from the war-affected areas. Reconciliation will transform the lives of 22 million Sri Lankans in this country. So I'm hoping that it will happen faster than we all want it to happen.
Mr. Rasamanickam.
We all rather faster than we all think it will happen.
Indeed. Mr. Rasamanickam, thank you very much And we wish you all the very best in working towards real reconciliation. And that's the way it was on Newsline Live with Shanakiyan Rasamanickam this evening. Take care, have a great evening, and, of course, God bless you all.